we're in Sri Lanka on the east coast where there's really minimal light pollution. And last night we were having dinner on the beach and we just looked up for a minute. We just took a second, looked up and just saw an entire sky of stars, like beaming at us. And it really got us sort of exploring the topic of significance and our place really in this world, in the universe. And really, I don't know if you've ever done this and looked at the stars like that, but it really kind of makes you, if you start wondering in your mind, it makes you realize just how small we are, not just as the world, but as individuals, just how small and insignificant we actually are.
Mm. And after kind of talking it through, we wanted to chat to you guys about it because we felt that it was a really poignant moment that made us rethink kind of everything. So how, Ross, does this kind of way of realization, how does this realization make you feel about yourself and your life and your work?
Well, I think that it's so easy to get caught up day to day in your own self-worth and just what's happening around you, your social circles, just everything. It's easy to get caught up and not kind of take a step back and just really assess things. And I think that leads to loads of stress. People get overwhelmed. People have hang-ups about things. And ultimately, I think if you change your views, if you actually start to realize almost your insignificance, if you look at like time and how long the world has existed and will exist for, we hope, will exist for, then you're like 80, 100 years is just so short. It's like ridiculously short. But not only that, like everything you're doing is probably, it doesn't matter that much. And I think that, I don't know about you, but that helps me like not get overwhelmed, not get stressed with stuff, because it's like a humbling thought that actually you're a nobody. The fact that you're insignificant, it kind of takes any pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you share the same view?
Yeah, yes. Recently, after kind of being away here, it certainly helps me battle my fear of like dying, which I kind of have a bit of a daily issue with, just realizing that actually we are just so microscopic, and it's kind of ignorant to almost think that you are that important, that, you should live almost. So yeah, it helps me in that situation, in that scenario in my own mind. But it's something that I kind of grapple with, like I'll remember and then I'll forget. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It's hard to not to keep that in the front of your mind. Not that it's probably the most positive thing to keep in the front of your mind, I'm insignificant, but it's so easy to get caught up in your situation, whether that's work or friends or family, that kind of thing, money. It is good to kind of bring you back down to earth, but how do you keep it kind of top of your mind? Or is it something that you used to think a lot about?
I've always, no, not really. I've learned it certainly by hearing it from different people and then just, internalizing it. And I think it helps a lot. I don't necessarily think I keep it front of mind. It's not something I think of what sounds like as much as you think of death, which I need to ask you about in a minute. But like the smallest things that people get hung up on, for example, a social feed, something as like small as a social feed. I think it's important if you really look at and understand your insignificance, then what you start to think and understand is that no one cares.
Yeah.
And when you know that no one cares about you or your business, or no one really cares, it changes the way you go about things. And if we were to look at that from a business perspective, it kind of takes down some barriers, and it just allows you to say, well, if no one cares, then why not just go for it? and I come back to the social feed in regards to starting a business. Some people I've spoken to who have, wanted to launch something, wanted to start something, and then they've got all of like their socials lined up, and they're umming and ahhing about what to do. And my kind of first piece of advice was, if you've got 0 followers, you may have like 50 or 100 within the next week or two. No one cares at all about what you're doing. So just do something. Just try different stuff. And I think that's kind of a metaphor for loads of things that you do. It doesn't really care. You could really worry about how you look, yet no, someone else, it's a classic thing, isn't it? Whenever you take a picture of a group of people, when a picture's been taken of you, you zoom in on yourself. Like everyone does that, don't they? They don't look at other people. They look at, how did I look in that picture? And isn't it weird how you self-criticize, yet when you look at everyone else, you go, oh, that's just him, that's just her, that's just him. And you don't ever think, oh, his hair doesn't look right, something doesn't look right. Like because you just don't care about them in that way, as which you kind of hold up your own self-worth. So I think it's a really humbling thing to think of it in that way, because it just means if no one cares, then you can just unshackle yourself.
Live your life.
Yeah, unshackle yourself from some of those kind of worries or stresses, because it just, and also talking about looking at the stars, like time is so short, isn't it? Like time is just crazy short, and there's just not enough time to even care, to even get worried about a hang up that you have. Like I am all for understanding that if someone, say one of your friends who you think should stay in contact with you, and they drop off slightly, say that happens. Now, a natural reaction could be to think that they've got something negative towards you, or there's something not good there. And to hold like a grudge or a hang up, I am totally in the camp of understanding that they're just living in their world, and at the moment you're not in that, but that's fine. It doesn't matter at all, because at some point in time you'll come back together, or you won't, but that'll be fine. It just doesn't really matter. There's plenty of people out there. So it's kind of like, if you understand the insignificance, then why hold any stress or any grudge for a long period of time? What do you think? Well, actually, I need to ask you about fear, death. Why do you say that you are worried about dying all the time?
I don't know, I just do.
Why? Do you?
Yeah. You know this, don't pretend like you don't know.
I don't know you think about it that often.
Yeah.
And what do you think about?
It's just my biggest fear that one of us dies. It just really bothers me a lot.
Well, I don't think you're alone there. I think a lot of people would fear death.
Yeah. I'm well aware that.
The thing is with death, like, I think it was Steve Jobs. There was that famous Steve Jobs video where he gave that talk to the university, and he talked about death, and that was really eye-opening for me.
I've not seen
I'll link to it in the show notes. It's like, because he really uses death as a motivator, and since then I've seen loads of people that use death as a motivator, and it's kind of along the same theme of what we're saying, that if you understand your insignificance, the fact that you're going to die, the fact that time is so short, well then it's a liberating feeling.
Yeah.
Because it gives you permission, permission that you feel like you may not have had for some weird reason.
Yeah.
That you can then go ahead and do that thing that you've always wanted to do, because time's running out and you're going to die.
Yeah, well, that's the one sure thing, isn't it? That's the weird thing about the whole topic and being frightened of it, is that that is what's going to happen to everybody, isn't it?
That's
so it's
fact.
just weird,
Yeah.
How do you think about death?
Yeah, like I said, I think that it's going to happen. And that if it's kind of the thing that if you can't do anything about it, like I really try to focus attention on stuff that I can do, like can actually control and have an impact on. So like for example, I don't watch much news. If like the big headlines, I will definitely hear, because normally people talk about them, or I'll see them somehow, but I won't spend half an hour to an hour watching the news every single day or flicking through the news, because a lot of the stuff is just negativity anyway. So it's not really going to help you. And it's like there's nothing you can do about it. Like what can you now? It may be that there's stuff, like I said, big things around, like, I don't know, climate change or something that you want to be a part in supporting, and then you can do stuff. So it's not, the message isn't that you can't do stuff about these big things, because absolutely I believe that you can also make a move. But when it comes to death, if you're going to die, then why worry about it? Like if you're on a plane, I just sort of think if the plane is going to crash, it's going to take, I don't know, a couple of minutes or less, and then that's going to be that. So there's no point having that plane journey fearful, because that's just negative. It's basically trying to put a positive spin on everything. The power of positive thinking, I guess. But everything that happens, we in episode 5 we talked about being in a hospital and all the traumatic experiences that we'd seen, and yet we kind of perceive that in a positive way because of what we've learned from it. There's always something to take from anything. So if you're in a nightmare, for us, if we get delayed by 7 hours and we're in the airport, well, there's no point being frustrated about it. Like, try and turn it around into some kind of positive, and then pick out something that you can enjoy. So that's kind of how I try to see everything, including the whole death topic. I think it is interesting when you start to change the perspective and turn it into a positive around the time that you have got. Yeah. One thing that does fascinate me is, just to kind of illustrate how short time is like historical monuments. I mean, we're seeing some really, really old monuments as we're traveling around, which is really cool. And just hearing when things were made, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, it's quite hard to totally take in that all these generations of people have come and gone, and they've seen that monument, and the monument is still there, yet everyone else is not. It just kind of really, for me, if you really internalize that, it just highlights again just how short time is and how insignificant we are, because the monument is there, but all the people that have seen it, I don't know who they are. Yeah.
Another thing that kind of is fascinating on my side, not so much the monuments and the temples, but the animals. Now, this is totally ab-libbing. We've not spoken about this, but we have spent quite a lot of time seeing animals that we've never seen before. The other day we saw some, in the wild, we saw some elephants and some dolphins, and we've been seeing all sorts of really beautiful creatures. And it kind of has been striking to me that there are these other species on the planet, just as we are, just living their day, watching a bird build a nest, or these kind of lives that these animals I know this is really, really fucking strange.
Well, I would also say, though, that that's the same with people. We're here in Sri Lanka, we've got this one guy that every single evening gets on his paddleboard and just paddleboards in the sea on his own. Everyone else is kind of gone for dinner, and he's a local, and he's just chilling. He's just riding the wave and then going back out and riding the next wave.
The only one on this huge beach.
And he does it till it's literally black.
Pitch black.
And he does it every single night. And I just think, how many people in the world are trying to do this and that and busy in their lives, and this guy is just chilling on his paddleboard. That's what he's doing.
That's kind of what I feel about these animals. Why I just need to I feel like I need to explain about the animals. I'm not going crazy, I promise.
Tell us about the animals, Luce.
No, don't make me out to be crazy.
So the bird what does what? Carry on.
Don't nod and give me a love rub. I don't know.
What do you mean?
That these animals don't have any expectations of themselves. They're just going out to feed their kids and going back to their little nest. And it's been interesting just to observe animals in their environment. And we're just an animal, but we have this innate like motivation to better ourselves and do X, Y, Z. Yeah, I understand that we're a bit more advanced than that, but it's just been interesting.
Yeah. I guess it goes to show, especially in this day and age where you can travel, like you can seriously do whatever you want to do. And like we went for breakfast yesterday, and there was a little beachside like shack restaurant thing, and it was owned by two English ladies. So like, you know, you can do that if you want. It's not a case of you have to kind of make do with where you are currently. You really can decide what you want to do. Yeah. One thing I find absolutely fascinating is how all of this is going to change with tech. Mm-hmm. Because I mentioned the monument.
With birds on their iPhones.
Yeah. Coming back to the animals. I mentioned the monument and the people that have came and gone, you know, previously. Where how would we have remembered them? Just from pictures, drawings, and books. And I'm particularly interested in books because there's so many books which you read, which could be like huge books, which are, I don't know, hundreds of years old. But yet, I still don't know, as much as I could like really like the book, I don't know who the author is properly, other than, you know, just maybe a few pictures or something. But now, with technology, like we're literally capturing everything. Like there is a chance that this podcast, along with all of your Instagram feed right now, could be viewed by someone in like 1,000 years' time. Which is, to me, is just like the craziest thought.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think though that tech will have just advanced even further. So how we see those books for 500 years ago is how people may see the mediums that we are using now.
No, of course tech would have evolved. However, with you know, cloud computing now, the fact that everything's in a server that cannot be destructed, you know, it's not like a book can be burnt. And our distribution channels are just ridiculous compared to what they were. So this is around, you know, this podcast will be around. The pictures that go uploaded online will be around. So yeah, of course tech will be evolved, but I don't think like the internet will go for something else. But as long as it's there, you'll be able to access the stuff that was on it. That's what I'm saying. So it will be around. So that to me is just really, really interesting. And like, I mean, we've probably got the biggest opportunity now, of course, to kind of make an impact just because of our rate of shareability and whatever we're doing. But the fact that everything will stick around for ages, I mean, one of the reasons we wanted to do this is just how weird it will be listening back when we're older. It'll be really, really strange when we are 80 years old and we're listening back to the conversations we had when we were 28 in Sri Lanka.
This week's review is from N506, titled Laid Back and Informative Podcast. And they say, stumbled upon this podcast and love it. Has great and varied content. Lucy and Ross keep their information and advice relevant and engaging. They are clearly working hard to provide a wide range of content that is useful to those interested in a digital nomadic lifestyle and entrepreneurship. Furthermore, they listen to feedback and react to it well, implementing change to improve as much as they can. Good luck. Keep podcasting, please. Thank you so much for those lovely words. Please leave your names if you drop us a review so that we can give you a shout out and get in touch with you. These reviews help us so much grow the podcast, so please head over to iTunes now and leave a review.
If you start to think and really take in the fact of this insignificance, like we're saying, then the topic of permission kind of surfaces around, like, what are you waiting for? If there's something that you know you're kind of insignificant, no one cares, you can do whatever, then why is it that you wouldn't be doing that? Like, who are you waiting for permission for? And I think it's so easy to wait for permission from someone else. Like we say on this podcast, obviously Life Design Diaries, the podcast that gives you permission to live your best life. Now, we say that because we're talking about topics of which, hopefully you are interested in and would then potentially want to use or learn from in your own life, and then you can do what you want to do. However, the only person that can really give you permission, of course, is you. Like there's no one that's ever going to give you permission. You shouldn't need permission from anyone. Mm-hmm. We all know someone, whether it's ourselves or, one of our friends or family, who has said and continues to say that they want to do something, but then not do it. Mm-hmm. I want to go to that university. I want to start this business. I want to join this club. I'd really love to do that. I want to go traveling. Like we all know people that say that, but why don't they, what is it that they don't do it? And I think a big part is permission. They're kind of they're saying those things, looking for you to latch onto it and then
to give them like the golden
confirm,
eggs. Yeah.
Kind of confirm. And I've been in that place before. I've done that before. Absolutely. I actually now purposely don't tell people about if there's something that I was going to do, because I realized that the process of me telling someone really was just me seeking permission, when actually I don't need permission from them anyway. And so if they didn't give me that permission, I might have seen it as like a hindrance and not done it. Whereas now what I feel like is a much better way to go about something is just to do it, not tell people. And then once you've kind of got going, then you can tell them that you're doing it. Because, people have loads of different, if we're talking about starting a new venture, then people have loads of opinions. Everyone has an opinion. So if you start going out there and asking people what they think, I'm going to write a new book, what do you think? I'm going to go traveling, what do you think? Well, if they don't like it, they're going to tell you. And often people don't like the unconventional. So if it's slightly different, people will be very cautious and they say, are you sure about this? Have you considered that? And then you're going to find yourself maybe never doing that because you're seeking permission. So I feel like it's way better, if you know that the only person to give permission is yourself, then to just do that and then tell people later.
Yeah, I think that maybe our generation is in a bit of a trap of being able to go out and find the answers, but actually you fall into, a bit of you fall into like a bit of a false economy there, because you're not actually trying and failing, which is where you have your biggest learnings. So actually, if you decide that opening a sandwich shop in your hometown is a good idea, and everybody else says, and you go out and you ask people about it, and they all say it's a bad idea, then you don't do it. But if you began the process, you would learn so much around just starting.
Yeah, I totally agree. But why do you think that we're kind of built, or a lot of us are built to seek permission? Is it a self-belief thing? Yeah,
I think maybe a self-belief thing. I think we kind of revert to like the kids in us to go and, first person you ask is your parents generally for advice or whatever. I think some people are rubbish at asking for advice. I will say that. But I think, people just, it's kind of like almost lazy or a quick solution, isn't it? Mm. So obviously this is something that both of us have kind of had to overcome to be able to quit our jobs, start our businesses, go self-employed, even starting this podcast. So Ross, what are like some of the things that you've done to help yourself kind of like kick your own butt when you fall into that trap of asking or seeking for answers or permission?
Like I said, I think to not ask too many people. Definitely consider the context of if you are asking someone, consider the context of it. Because if you want to do something, I don't know, say you want to travel the world. Well, if you're not asking someone who's traveled the world, then you're probably not going to get the right opinion back about what it's like. You're going to get someone's theory about what they think it's like. And I think that is really important, because with all feedback, it's so easy to take it on board. Well, for a lot of people, it's not easy at all that I've worked with previously. But if you're kind of looking to progress and change and get better yourself, you take feedback on board. So you could hear some advice and feedback and go, oh, I need to do this. But actually, you need to seriously consider the context behind who actually said that.
Yeah, and maybe just an extension of that is kind of like just going with your own gut, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Because in the traveling scenario, we've had some advice on some places that we've been to, and we've arrived there expecting it to be like the best place in the whole world, and we really haven't enjoyed it. And then we've had advice from other people to say, oh, we hated Bali, but we loved it. So it's quite funny how, you also have to take people's feedback with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, I guess like what you said then, so it's like take the feedback, but then we made the decision. So we then did something. Whereas particularly if you're looking at doing something quite radical, like, I don't know, you want to travel the world or you want to start a business and it's a big change, I think it's important to take the feedback, understand the context, but then do something. Whereas it could be easy to take the feedback and then overwhelm yourself with what you've heard and then not actually do anything.
Yeah, definitely. And almost remember, or try not to feel like people are being judgmental. That's been something that I've had to had to work at from both sides of the coin, giving feedback or advice and then also receiving it as well, is that people's knee-jerk kind of reaction or things that they default to when they're giving you advice is their own preferences and what they know. And that doesn't mean that it's right for you, but it also doesn't mean that you should take offense or, feel like there is maybe some negativity there. Generally, people want the best for you. So yeah, that's kind of the other thing I would say. For if you're looking for advice to help you make a decision about a big change in your life, take it with a pinch of salt, let it sink in, and then kind of move on from it without holding any emotion.
No, that makes sense. And also, it can be, for some reason, it's so easy to get like caught up in emotions and barriers when you're looking at your own scenario. Yet when you look at someone else's, so I kind of said earlier, we all know someone that wants to do something, why don't they just do it? Well, I bet for those people that you're thinking about, you would have a very quick, rational decision about what they need to do to better themselves. It's like, okay, you say you want to do it, you need to do that. But for yourself, there always becomes these barriers and complications and things. So one thing, when you ask me, Lewis, what else do I do? It's to really try and look at my own situation from an external point of view. Like if you take all of your own emotions out of it and you just like lay the facts down about where you're at, what you want to do and why you can't do it, or just where you're at. Look at it like that and see if there's like an easy, obvious answer which presents itself. Because if you're to give other people advice like that, it's probably quite easy because you're not caught up in all of their stuff. It's like quite easy for you to say, this is what's happened, here's the path. But for yourself, it's really difficult. So I think you need to ask people and, like I said, take advice, but take it with context. And just look at yourself in a very rational perspective, almost as if you were looking at yourself from an external point of view. Yeah,
I think that's really interesting about kind of taking your own advice. I was quite surprised to look at some of the feedback that we've had coming in from people that we don't know, and kind of their situation and who they are. So these kind of thoughts came to mind when there was a particular listener who is I'd say about five years older than us, as a freelancer, looks like she's got a really great design business. And it really occurred to me, I thought, why would someone like that be listening to us chatting? And I thought, actually, it's so difficult to just keep like your own ideas going and your own actions moving. Like, it's so hard to take on board what you know you should do when you're doing it for yourself and your own business. It's really interesting, that, isn't it? I wonder why. I wonder what the psychology is behind that. You just get so bogged down sometimes, don't you? So it's a real interesting one. So a lot of the time, I think that the permission is generally what's holding you back. So you're holding yourself back. I don't know whether there's any particular times where you can identify whether you, or maybe me, if you're looking at other people, have had that situation and then what they've done to get themselves out of it. Because I think we've got, a couple of friends that would love to be doing X, Y, and Z, and we would love to help them. But until they realise it, they're not going to move forward in the direction that they want to go, because it's them that's holding themselves back. So I guess a question is there any tips or hacks or things that you can do to help yourself get out of that rut, like being stuck in your own mind?
I would say that it's important to know that, like, knowledge is not always the answer. And I think a lot of people, including myself, when I wanted to make a change, like, sought out more knowledge. But the very action of doing that made me feel like I was being progressive. But actually, I was just going around in circles now with a new habit of reading more, listening to more, and there's probably some people listening to this, because podcasts are... Traditionally, a lot of people listen to podcasts when they want to, they want to do something. Some people listen to them for entertainment, but certainly podcasts like this, you may be listening and think, you may be seeking something out right now that you want to make a change, you want to do something. And it's good, of course, keep listening to our podcast. But actually, it's important to know that knowledge is not the answer, not all of the answer. It may be, you may be kind of new to a new subject and actually need to really get your, grounding in terms of understanding. But once you get past a certain point, I feel like you kind of know enough. You know what you need to know to get started. So it's then comes down to, like what you said, around permission and just your own beliefs and your own will to get started and to actually put plans together and go for it.
Yeah, like dumb it down a bit almost. Like you don't need all of the massive strategies and business plans and things like that to get going.
Yeah, if knowledge was the answer, we'd all have six packs. Because we all know how to do that. It's like the whole diet topic in the main actually is like a perfect example of this. It is nothing to do with the knowledge. Like, the new fad comes and the new fad goes, and there's like, this is the way that we need to do it now, or carbs are bad. It's nothing to do with the knowledge. It's to do with you every single day changing your behavior and actually doing it. You're actually exercising more, actually eating less. That's like what we know. That's how you make the change. It's nothing to do with understanding it in more detail.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same when it comes to business or making a big change. It's about action. To summarize all of that, I think it's really important sometimes to just take a step back and realize actually how insignificant we are as individuals in a humbling, positive way. And once you realize that, you can then start to break down this concept of permission and actually give yourself permission to do exactly what you want to do. And when you internalize that, work hard to change your thinking from a thinking mindset to an action mindset.